What's up, good people? Welcome to another episode of Standing on Business. I am your host, Delvin Joyce, the People's Choice, and I am joined by, a guy who needs no introduction. I mean, the guy is in the New York Giants Ring of Honor, maybe the best receiver in New York Giants football history. My guy, Amani, well-dressed Toomer. What's up, Amani?
Oh, nothing much. Thanks for the kind introduction, but it's not a mic. It's actually an is. No, I'm joking.
Hey, listen, man, I'm going to stand on business right now for a second. I think that Amani Toomer is a Hall of Famer. I mean, I know we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago and you don't really care about the Hall of Fame and all that, but I think you're a Hall of Famer. So,
I mean, I feel like when it comes to that, I feel like there's a lot that goes into the Hall of Fame, right? Like it's not just about, you have to have moments, right? You have to do everything in your prime. You have to have a story behind the teams that you were on. And it's not just all about how good a person you are or how good a player you are. It's more. Yeah. And that's why it's fame. Like, what is fame? Fame is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why when because it definitely something that I thought about a lot. And I knew that, because I didn't go to any of I didn't make a Pro Bowl. Yeah. Which I thought was ridiculous, but I didn't make a Pro Bowl. So then I kind of like understand, look, you're probably not going to get in there. I think I have the most catches. I'm one of the guys with the most catches ever to never make a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. I wouldn't have known that had you not said that. I would have just assumed that you probably made 2 or 3 Pro Bowls. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like you had some really good seasons.
Yeah, some really good seasons, and I played on some really good teams. And it just didn't work out. But like I said, I don't need people to tell me how good my career was. I understand how it was, and I'm very happy with it. And sometimes you just don't get the extra fluff. But in my mind, I could put my abilities, I could put my careers, I could put my opportunities against anybody's, and I feel like I would come out. I'd come out on top, some. And right next on others, and I'd be below a couple others, but I'd be in the house. That's all I say.
Man. And you know what? Let Wells Fargo tell you how good your career was, man. Every time you look at that bank account, you know what I'm saying? So listen, man, this is Standing on Business where we are always standing on business. And today we got 3 topics we're going to talk about. The first one, we're going to talk about some of these FCS football programs moving up to FBS. I think it's a very timely discussion. We're also going to talk about the Big Ten wanting to expand the college football playoff to a 24-team playoff. And then last conversation we're going to have is about the SEC. Amani, I know your favorite topic. We're going to talk about the SEC and a record payout for its member schools. Right? Before we get into that conversation, I want to remind all of our listeners and viewers to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the Standing on Business podcast. And we'd love to have you in the comments so that we can have a dialogue around some of the things that we talk about on the show. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, leave a review, rate the podcast. That's going to help other people find our show. And with that, Amani, let's get into it. So, Amani, the first topic we're going to talk about, man, is FCS football programs moving up to the FBS. And you can hear my dog is pretty excited about it in the background. I don't know if you heard that. But Amani, are you a big follower of FCS football in any way?
No, not at all. I mean, I watch football games during the weekend. Anytime I see a game, I'll watch just to see some good football. I'm not really into the FBS. The BS means they're bowls, right? And the CS means championship, right?
Yeah, there you go. Look at you, man. So FBS means football bowl subdivision, and the FCS is football championship subdivision because they have a playoff, right? Yeah. The FCS has I think it's a 24-team playoff. And what's interesting right now is that there are 2 teams that, one of which has been a powerhouse at the FCS football level, is just announced that they're moving up to the Mountain West Conference. That is North Dakota State University, who has won 10 out of, I think, the last 15 national championships at the FCS level, which is insane. And then the other member of the FCS who just announced that they're going to move up to the FBS is Sacramento State. Sacramento State moving to the MAC. And, I
I
saw
don't.
someone make a post the other day. Nothing says mid-America like Sacramento, California. So, Amani, what are your initial thoughts about Sacramento State and North Dakota State deciding to move up to FBS?
North Dakota State, I understand because if you're hitting your head because you win 10 out of, I mean, that's one of the best college sports stories since, John Wooden back in the 70s, was it 60s, 70s. So like you can't get to a point where you're so dominant that there's no real competition for you, uh, where you're going to 10 championship games and you're, by far one of the better programs. You have to move up. They probably should have moved up 5, 6 years ago just because, stagnation is one of the things that I feel like is the worst thing that could ever happen to an athlete. You always got to be growing, and or an athlete or a program, you always got to be growing because the question is always going to be, well, if they did it, they're probably not, they probably don't, if they went to all those championship games, they're probably not in a really competitive league. And I think that it takes away from it was actually happening. So I would say that probably a couple of years too late, but Sacramento, I don't know of them of having any real success. I don't know. I know they have a really big financial backer, I think. And that may be one of the reasons why.
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but to your point, in California, in that Sacramento, California area, I mean, there's billionaires in California. I don't know if there's a lot of billionaires in North Dakota. Maybe there are some. But to your point, I think that, one of the things that when you look at this North Dakota State thing, and I got to be a little biased because of my university, my alma mater that I went to. I went to James Madison University, as you know. And JMU had astronomical success in moving up in the 4 years that they've been an FBS program, right? Now, the first 2 years, of course, they were ineligible for the postseason, but they had a killer year in 2023 under then coach Kurt Signetti, who of Indiana fame. But they had a killer year that year. I mean, I think they lost one game and they had a chance maybe to potentially petition to be in a New Year's Six or college football playoff bowl at that point. And so I think that a program like North Dakota State, who has had the astronomical success that they've had, is looking at a James Madison and saying, look at these guys. They kind of, moved up. We were bitter rivals at the FCS level. They've moved.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, James Madison won the national championship, the FCS national championship in 2017. They won by beating North Dakota State in the semifinals in North Dakota to advance to the championship. So they won the national championship that year. They went back to the national championship the year after. So James Madison went back.
Yeah.
They played North Dakota State in the championship game. North Dakota State beat them that year. And then 2 years later, they met in the national championship again for a third time. And or for a second time, third time playing them in the playoffs in 4 or 5 years. And North Dakota State beat them again. So there's a bitter rivalry there. But my point is that North Dakota State's looking at James Madison and saying, man, if they went to the college football playoff, we could move up and do that too.
Exactly.
Right? Because if I look at these two programs, because we're going to talk about the money in a second, because this is standing on business. So we're going to talk about the financial impact of this. But when you look at the actual opportunity to be successful on the field, I personally believe that North Dakota State has all the ingredients to make a successful transition and actually really compete in the Mountain West. I think that is a great situation for their program.
Yeah. So JMU is in what? What conference are they in?
The Sun Belt.
The Sun Belt. So the Mountain West is probably comparable, or probably Mountain West,
same.
The same. Maybe I've heard of the Mountain West. I don't know who else is in the Sun Belt, to be 100% honest.
Well, the Sun Belt is like, you should know this name, being that you're a Michigan grad. Appalachian State. Does that ring a bell to the Michigan fans? I mean, do you guys know App State for any reason at all?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. So you know at least one team, right? So the Sun Belt Conference is teams like, again, Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, Marshall, right? Some of the teams that you would know. But out west, there's like Louisiana. Texas State previously was in the Sun Belt, but
Texas State.
they just moved to the Pac-12,
Pac-12.
the
Yeah, I
newly
saw that.
reconstituted Pac-12. So again, but the good thing, and again, I think this leads to this conversation about, does this move make sense for these FCS programs? The Sun Belt has regional rivalries, right? Like you got Old Dominion and James Madison, like they're 3 hours apart, bus ride, right? You got James Madison and like Appalachian State. You got Appalachian State and Georgia Southern. There are things that tie these programs to one another, both geographically and fan base wise. And for Sacramento State, when I look at the move to the Mid-American Conference, now you got kids who are going to go to Sacramento State and have to play some kids at Ball State that they really have no rivalry tie to. The fan base is not really going to care about playing Western Michigan, right? So that one is a puzzling story for me. What do you think?
I feel like rivalries happen more organically than that. There's a rivalry between Notre Dame and USC. Like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Just playing each other over and over again. They're not even anywhere close to each other. You're talking about a school in LA and then a school in South Bend, Indiana. Rivalries, looking at that is like a short-term thing. Like, well, they don't have any rivalries. You just wait. They're going to find some. If you have a team that you play every year and all of a sudden you have to, how that game goes determines whether you go to a playoff or you go to a bowl game or you sit at home and watch TV, their rivalry is going to start to take hold. Just give it time.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, because I think the biggest concern is not even the rivalry for the players. It's the rivalry for the fan base and the fan interest. And right now, I mean, Sac State doesn't necessarily have a lot of fans at the FCS level that actually show up to the games, versus North Dakota State. They got 20,000 in the Fargo Dome, and those people are going crazy. And I also think that, to your point, apathy sort of set in with the North Dakota State fan base, because they just got tired of winning. Like, you win 10 national championships in 15 years. It's like, all right, what's next? Like, let's go do something else. But North Dakota State also wins, or has the advantage in the geographic footprint of the conference that they're going in, because now they're in the Mountain West. There are some natural rivals there, right? They've got Wyoming. They've got even like a UNLV, like a Nevada team, right? And so I just think there's a big opportunity for North Dakota State to come up, make the move, make it very feasible. But let's talk about the economics of it, right? And maybe we'll circle back to some of the logistics of it, but the economics of it, I think, are also puzzling for me, because again, North Dakota State had to pay $17.5 million to make this move. $12.5 million of that, Amani, they had to pay to the Mountain West Conference as an entry fee. And
the Mountain West, that's crazy.
And they had to pay $5 million to the NCAA to make a transition.
Where that money goes, I have no idea. Where that money go? I have no idea where that money goes.
Amani, you want to fly commercial or you want to fly private? I mean, come on. This is the conversation they're having at the NCAA, man. They flying private over there, man. So $5 million. And, we just mentioned James Madison. So James Madison went from FCS to FBS. They made that transition in 2022, right? So you know what happened in 2023, starting in 2024? The entry fee, or the transition fee to move from FCS to FBS, went up to $5 million. James Madison paid $5,000. I think I might have wrote that check that year for the school. It was $5,000, bro. Yeah. So now
James Madison they seem like, not to just stroke you, but man, they seem like they are ahead of the game in everything.
They are ahead of the game, man. And listen, there's a lot of things that work out in our favor, but you know what? I'd rather be lucky than good, right? Isn't that the old saying?
It's like you're a college. You have some of the smartest people in the country, trying to, and at your school, right?
Yeah.
And at all these colleges, some of the most intelligent people, but they very rarely get it right in the simple business of not simple business, but it's not the most complex business of navigating a college football rules.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
you know something's coming down the pipe, and you're like, we're pretty good at where we are. Like North Dakota State, I don't know what they were thinking about. Like they just cost themselves, you know, $4.995 million just because they just were sleeping.
Well, there's some, yeah, because they could have moved up 3 years ago. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, 4 years ago. Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, but you know what? To their point, like maybe they weren't necessarily ready for the move. And we'll talk about what this move actually means. But out the gate, $17.5 million, just burn it up and throw it in the trash. Like it's gone, right? Just to play the exact same game you've been playing, just against different opponents. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's an even tougher pill to swallow for Sacramento State, Amani, because you know how much they had to pay to move to the Mid-American Conference.
The MAC.
To the MAC. To play games.
How much did they pay?
$18 million to play games on Tuesday and Wednesday night. 18 million bucks. And of course, they also still had to pay the $5 million to the NCAA. So $23 million price tag for Sacramento State, who averages 13,000 fans per home game. So to your point, I really do hope that they have like some anonymous billionaire donor who's just, you know, flushing them with cash.
I think when you look at this situation for Sacramento, you got to look at the bigger picture. Like they're the capital city in California. But whenever you think of California, you think of LA, you think of San Diego. Well, wait, let me redo the order. You think of San Francisco, you think of LA, and you think of San Diego.
Of LA. No, you think of LA first.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Nobody thinks San Francisco when they think California.
There's a big rivalry between NorCal and SoCal. And NorCal is San Francisco and SoCal is LA. And there's a big rivalry.
And
we're the little brothers. We're the little brothers. So you tell people in LA about what do you think of San Francisco? They're like, oh, I really like San Francisco. Yeah. You ask somebody in NorCal, what do you think of LA? We hate LA. They suck down there, blah, blah, blah. So it's one of those things, but nobody even thinks. Yeah. Nobody even thinks about Sacramento. So they want to get in. They have a basketball team.
Yeah. The Kings.
And the Kings.
Yeah.
And I think they just want to give more to that city. So I don't think it's just about the money. I think it's about a whole city trying to gain relevancy. I mean, they have almost 500,000 people there, and maybe it could, get a little shine for them. And there's a lot of cities in California that are pretty good cities that nobody even talks about, and the capital city is one of them for California.
Well, but the big question and the mystery for me, though, is how are they going to do this? Like, how are they going to pay for this? And I know they're in the California State University system. So I think that maybe plays to their favor. But the fact that you're down $23 million, you haven't even played a single ball game yet. You're not eligible for the postseason for the first 2 years, so you can't make the money up on the back end by qualifying for a bowl game and getting a big payout. So where do they make up the money? And it's not like, and again, North Dakota State's totally different if you ask me. North Dakota State has had sustained success, right?
They already got reputation.
They got reputation. Yeah. They got a national brand. Like I saw the North Dakota State story trending on all media. I only saw the Sacramento State story trending on media that I follow because I'm a college football nerd. It's not a national story. And so the question is, how do they make up that money, right? Where does that money come from?
I mean, they could do like JMU and just charge the students an extra fee.
Yeah, they
but
could.
Still, that's still, I mean.
Yeah. And by the way, just for the listeners, a little background. So, I mean, we talked about this in pre-production today. I mean, James Madison, one of the ways that they have been able to subsidize their athletic program is that they have a mandatory student fee built into their, tuition that actually is allocated specifically for athletics, right? So each student, it used to be upwards of $3,000. Now, when they made the transition, I think the Virginia legislature forced them to reduce those student fees, but now that student fee is roughly $2,450 per year per student. And JMU has about 22,000 undergraduates who are paying this fee, which means that brings in about $55 or $54 million a year that is allocated strictly for athletics, right? James Madison has the highest student fees of any university in the country.
That's correct.
Now, would you say it paid off, right? I mean, they just went to the college football playoff.
Yeah. I think they went to the college football playoff. I think every student is, you say all the games are sold out.
Yeah.
They have every opportunity to go to these games. They get to see top flight football and every other sport. I think it's winning. They're winning for them, but I feel like the way they went about it is such a measured approach.
Yeah. In
the fact that they haven't really gotten over their skis too much, and it's not going to be like we're only going to have one good year and we're going to hold our boots for the next, 25 years. They figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
They got in when it was only $5,000.
Yeah.
And they figured out a way to not overspend and get all their coaches and all the stuff so they're going to be able to have a really sustained run at this thing. And
yeah,
it's just a well thought out. You'd expect this of a college football program.
Yeah.
Where people are thinking about how is this going to affect, and going through a very thoughtful way of going about this. I was just scrolling through to see the actual record of Sacramento State, and last year, I guess they had some their conference championships in 2022.
Yeah,
they were 12-1. In 2021, they were 9-3. 2019, they were 9-4. And I think they are like, look, we're a really good team. We deserve a little bit more shine. We're going to put that out there and see what we could do.
Here's the challenge, I think, for Sac State. And again, I'm rooting for Sac State because I root for everybody who went from FCS, because I played FCS football. And by the way, I love that I got Amani Toomer from the Big Ten Michigan Wolverines talking about FCS football on Standing on Business. But I'm rooting for them. I think the big challenge is that success that they've had at Sac State has been like the last 5 years. Like they were perennial bottom feeder in the Big Sky Conference. They don't have a history of success. They don't have like that fan base like a North Dakota State who's like, all right, we're going to ride or die with this team no matter what. All right? So I think that is a challenge for them. And the other part that's a challenge for them financially now, right? So if you remember, an FCS program can have 63 scholarships. The old rule under FBS rules was that you had to have 85 scholarships. So already there's 22 additional scholarships that they got to come up with, right? Mm-hmm. Now, under the House settlement, and by the way, I got to go back and reverse something that I said in the first episode of Standing on Business. I said the House settlement was a lawsuit from the House of Representatives and the NCAA. It has nothing to do with the House of Representatives. I just totally brain farted, made that up. And it's actually a kid named Grant House, who is a swimmer at Arizona State University. He sued the NCAA. His name is House. By the way, he sued the NCAA and said, hey, I'm suing you guys for antitrust because you didn't allow me to make money as an athlete when I was at Arizona State. and he won the lawsuit, right? Or they settled, the NCAA settled with him. And now what that means, though, is that now the NCAA is going to pay back pay for past student athletes going back to 2016 because they used their name, image, and likeness and they didn't get compensated for it, right? So,
shoot, I should start another one. Maybe a Toomer. Jeez, I didn't get paid.
The Toomer versus House settlement, right? So going back to 2016, they're going to make these back payments, right, over the course of I think 10 years. It's estimated that football players are going to get somewhere roughly around $40,000, right? And then the House settlement also allows colleges now to share revenue directly with players. But here's the other part of that House settlement that is not being talked about. It's that now universities have to cap their rosters at 105 players, but now they can go up to 105 scholarships. So instead of 85 scholarships, you can offer 105 scholarships. So obviously the power conferences
Wow.
who are well capitalized, they're like, yo, we're going to have 105 scholarships. Now, some of these schools, and this is why I want to talk about it on Standing on Business, because we think about Sacramento State's got to pay $23 million to move up to FBS, but now to be competitive at FBS, now they got to go from 63 scholarships to 105 scholarships. And here's the other part that I don't think people understand. Those 63 scholarships at FCS can be divided in any denomination they want.
Yeah.
So I could say, you know what, Amani, we got 63 scholarships, but we need to fill a roster of 100 players. So I'm going to give you a half a scholarship, and I'm going to give that guy a half a scholarship, right? I'm not going to use one full scholarship on one player.
Yeah.
At the FBS level, they all have to be full rides. It's all or nothing. You can't do a half or a quarter or a three-quarter scholarship. It's full ride or nothing. So now Sacramento State has to do 105, again, to be competitive, 105 full scholarships. Think about the financial impact there.
I don't know if that's going to be a big financial impact because, like, basically, you're bringing kids in and you're not really paying for them. They're not really paying for school anyway. They're just extra people in the classroom. They're not paying. So I don't.
Oh, no, that's not how it works. No,
What do you mean?
no, somebody pays. No, the scholarship, like they have to come up with the money. It's not like a.
Yeah, but they pay themselves. They're paying the school.
Yeah, okay, but still, it's still an extra 42. Like it's like 42 full rides. They have to pay the school. The athletic program has to pay the university.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I didn't know. I thought they would just be like, okay, we'll just not make this guy pay.
No, it's not.
They could just add extra. They could just add an extra, whatever. How many more students? Well, you said 40 scholarships. Just let them 40 more kids in, and you'll none be the wiser.
I mean, because let's say the in-state tuition there is $25,000. I'm just ballparking.
It can't be.
42 kids. That's $1 million that they got to come up with each year extra, right? Just on tuition fees, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it, and this is the other part that I guess people don't think about. If you got to have an extra 42 full scholarships for a men's football program, then there's also Title IX considerations.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which means now we have to add the exact same number of scholarships for women's sports programs if we're out of compliance, right? So now I either have to add like a whole new women's sports program in order to get to equal up to the 42, right?
Yeah, and I'm just looking at this thing, and I'm looking at like the stadium size, and they only have like. I mean, your points are very, very valid, but also like, can you be in FBS and have a 21,000 seat stadium? Like, how are you going to be? How are you going to? Who's going to want to play? You're going to be playing a lot of road games.
Well,
because at Michigan, we only played Notre Dame on the road. Because we
out of conference. Out of conference.
Yeah, out of conference. We played home and then we played Notre Dame.
That's now that is you being a Power 4 snob here with this conversation, because I mean, I get it. Like, not everybody has a 100,000 seat stadium. And if they could get, how about this? Even though their stadium only holds 21,000, if they could actually get 21,000 people in the stadium every week, they'd be fine, right? Because if you got a 21,000 seat stadium and you get 21,000 people that show up, it feels like 40,000. But if you've got a 21,000 seat stadium and 13,000 people show up, it feels like 6,000, right? And I think the challenge for them is that they've had 13,000 people show up. And if you compare that with a North Dakota State, who has the same issue, by the way, they're going to have the same Title IX issue. They're also going to have the same issue of the 42 additional scholarships if they're going to do the 105. But North Dakota State, they've got 19,000 seat stadium, I think. They get 19,000 in that dome, the Fargo Dome, and it feels like 40, right? I think the big challenge.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter what it feels like. It matters how much money they're making, right?
Yeah, but
Like, are they making money enough to make this thing to make a real go at this thing?
but somebody once told me, I think it was maybe on episode 1 of Standing on Business, my co-host Amani Toomer said to me, they don't make money on the gate. They don't care about how many people show up to games. They make money on media rights, right? You literally said that about the New York Giants.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But what I'm telling you here is the media rights are going to depend on how full the stadium is, what the energy in the stadium is.
Yeah, to a degree,
So,
right? They're already
like nobody, because when you watch a game on TV, right?
yeah.
And you see the stands are empty, you're like, man, why am I watching this if nobody's even wanting to watch it themselves?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that impacts their ability to negotiate the next deal, right? I think this is the bigger point, as we talk about the ACC, because I do want to transition and talk about our second story, the Big Ten.
Gotcha.
But I think a lot of this, North Dakota State deciding to move up, Sacramento State deciding to move up. I think a lot of this has to do with the idea that most people in college football believe that the year 2030 is going to be a year of reckoning for a lot of college football programs. That is going to be the year where, conferences are going to realign, because one of the things that's going to happen that year is the Big Ten media rights deal expires. So the Big Ten is going to renegotiate their media rights deal, which means they're probably going to try to attract some other programs into the Big Ten in order to make their next media rights deal more attractive, right? Look at all these brand names that we have, and you've been spot on in saying that we've got all the biggest cities in the country in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that happens in 2030 is that the ACC, who has had an astronomical exit fee for their members, right? So like it's rumored that Clemson wanted out, Florida State wanted out, but they would have had to pay an extraordinary amount of money to get out. Well, that exit fee drops to a meager $75 million in the year 2030, which makes it a lot more feasible for some of these schools to opt out, especially if they're going to be going to bigger conferences like the Big Ten or the SEC, where the media rights will kind of offset the fact that they had to pay $75 million. And so, again, I think if a North Dakota State or a Sacramento State, they're trying to position themselves to be in a place where, Sac State's in the MAC right now, but maybe in 2030 they can squeeze their way into this newly constituted Pac-12, because the Pac-12 may lose a team like a Boise State to the Big Ten at that point, right? So I feel like there's a lot of jockeying for position, all in anticipation of just an earthquake in 2030.
Well, let me tell you a story. So Sacramento State, Sac State, one of their big rivals was UOP, University of the Pacific, right?
Okay, yeah.
They were a team that folded their football program. They were very good. They would go and they'd beat Stanford, they'd beat Cal. They were very competitive when I was growing up. But as things started to realign, there's no room for the bottom half anymore. This is microcosm what's going on in society. If you're not moving up, or if you're not, building, you can't just sit around and wait for something to happen. And so that's why I think when you look at Sacramento State, you have to look at UOP, one of the teams that was one of their rivals in the past. And Sacramento State, they're a competitive team. They play in their leagues, they're competitive. But if they're not moving up and trying to get themselves better and move up, just like North Dakota State, there's not going to be a room for some of these very good second-tier teams. And I would love to see I don't know what's going to happen to FCS. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to it.
Yeah.
Because the big conferences want more. They want more eyeballs on them. They don't want to be giving away this extra money to these little conferences that they perceive to be inferior conferences.
Yeah.
So that's the approach that I think that they're taking.
Yeah.
James Madison realized they were either going to keep kind of like taking hits to their overall football standings.
Yeah.
North Dakota State, the same.
Yeah.
Sac State was like, look, because so I feel like there's going to be a decision you're going to have to make. And there's going to be a lot of football programs that are going to shut down their doors
Yeah.
and just say, we can't compete anymore.
Can't compete.
And if you want to have a football program that does help your attendance or athletics in general, that helps the college experience,
Yeah.
or you just want a school like NYU that doesn't have any sports.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And just got kick ass academics. But I agree with you, man. I think the train is leaving the station. And I think a lot of the programs out there are saying, all right, we want to get on the train. And to do that, they've got to make some decisions. 105 scholarships, NIL, revenue share, all these things are going to impact the viability of success. And I think you created a perfect segue for us to talk about the Big Ten, right? Because the Big Ten right now just released a memo with a proposal for expanding the college football playoff to 24 teams. And Amani, to your point, I think that this proposal is less about giving more teams outside of the power conferences access, because you would think, all right, we're going to expand the 24 teams. Maybe they're trying to make it more inclusive to other conferences. No, they want to make it more inclusive to the Big Ten. They, I believe, want to give more access to other programs and teams inside the Big Ten. So, Amani, how do you feel about the Big Ten's proposal for a 24-team playoff?
I don't like it. Not because I don't like the playoff thing. I think college football is missing out on what makes the NCAA basketball tournament the best.
Yeah.
There's the opportunity. That's what America's all about. You have an opportunity to be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
And so what you see now on a bigger scale in other parts of society, you're starting to see in college football. Yeah, we want the perception that everybody can do it. But, I'm going to put my finger on the scale, and we're going to bake in the fact that we're going to have, whether hell or high water comes, we're going to have 7 teams in every year from the Big Ten because we're this big. No, that's why I don't like it. I like the fact that there's a 24 team, but I just have the best 24 be the best. I don't need to have, we need to have X amount of this. That's why the BCS era, when the SEC was dominating for like 20 years, they always felt like, well, the SEC is the best. Why? Well, they beat each other up. Every conference beats each other up. Like, they don't play harder in the SEC or harder in the Big Ten or harder. Football is a very, is a game of attrition.
Yeah.
And no matter where you are, you're going to take some lumps.
Yeah.
And to say one is better than the other, I think it's a little disingenuous.
Yeah.
So I just want it to be more American. I want it to be more of an meritocracy to where I like the 24 teams. I like it, but make it all just be random. Like, I want to see some teams I've never heard of that just have some balling teams. I want to see North Dakota State in there.
Yeah.
I want to see JMU in there. I want to see, whatever HBCU has a great team. Put them in there. I want it all. I want the best.
Wow. What a hot take. Amani wants HBCUs in the college football playoff. I love it, man. And
I mean, if they're the best, they're the best.
And I agree, because I think this playoff should be about access. So if you are expanding the playoff, then you should expand the access. But that is not what the Big Ten's proposal says. The Big Ten's proposal says that there should be guaranteed automatic bids for the power conference. And they're saying, they're saying like 6 to 8 automatic bids for the Big Ten and the SEC. So 16
teams already took it off the board.
Out the gate. So there's 8 left for the Big 12, the ACC, and then the G5 or G6 now with the new Pac-12.
But there's not 8 great teams in any conference.
Yeah, and by the way, why do we want to see them play each other again? Like, why do I need to see Vanderbilt play Alabama for a second time? I don't really need to see that, right? Y'all, you had a chance during the regular season. If you guys, whoever won that game, put them in the playoff, and I don't need to see them play again.
Yeah.
Right?
You're 100% right. And that's what makes football and college football so great. Even better than the pros in some aspects is like, you play a team once. You have to prepare.
Yeah.
And the styles in college football are so wildly different.
Yes.
And so that's what makes the NCAA great, because in basketball, there's totally different styles, ways in which they approach the game, and you put it all together and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if you have teams that play in the same conference, you kind of know what's going to happen because they play each other every year. They know each other really well. The not knowing and the novelty of it, I think that's what's going to make the NCAA college football playoffs, which would make it so great. You know, the fact that when you used to watch the BCS, you'd watch Ohio State playing Alabama, and it's like, yeah, we saw them play other people, but we haven't seen them play each other.
Yeah. No,
and playing each other is a thing.
You're exactly
Or like when
right.
Notre Dame would play all these teams, they'd play Tennessee, they'd play all these different teams, and they'd play USC.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good against them, but I want to see how this particular matchup, because it's like in boxing, styles make fights.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't see it coming. You don't see an upset coming because you just don't know how this style is going to match up against the other one.
That's why the service academies would be hell in the college football playoff.
Absolutely.
Because if Ole Miss has to go play Air Force in the triple option, it's a problem, bro. I don't care how good your team is. If you can't game plan for a triple option offense, you're in trouble, bro. I mean, it's a totally different thing. But I just think that, when I look at this proposal, again, if it was about expanding the access, to your point, I'd love to see a North Dakota State in this playoff, right? And especially because a North Dakota State has run the gamut 10 out of 15 years in a 2014 playoff. Like, they know how to do it from a management standpoint.
Yeah.
I think the interesting question, and I want to pose this for you as a guy who played big time college football in the Big Ten, is if they did expand to 24 teams, which I'd be okay with, not if it's 8 automatic bids for the SEC and the Big Ten. I'm against that. No. But if they did expand to 24 teams, what then happens to conference championship games?
Yeah, that's another thing that I think is it. To win the Big Ten or to win the SEC, it doesn't really mean that much because there's something above that, right? Yeah. It used to be you win your conference and that was pretty much it, and your reward was going to a bowl game playing against another conference. Maybe they were champion, maybe they were second, but you would be able to have like that. You would be known as the Big Ten champion.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, of course, the Big Ten champion this year went on and won the national championship.
And last year.
But, yeah. Well, last 3 years.
Last 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it still says something, but like the SEC champion doesn't mean as much as it did, because I think didn't the SEC champion, was that Alabama this year?
SEC champion was Georgia.
Yeah. So they weren't the best team,
Yeah.
They didn't make it out of did they even make it out of the first round?
Yeah, they did. They played in the quarters, I think, and they lost. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then they lost to didn't they lose to
Ole Miss?
Yeah, Ole Miss, who wasn't in the Big Ten, wasn't in the SEC championship. So it just now when you look back at the year, you're really like, who had a better year? Was it Ole Miss or Georgia?
Yeah. I think they got to figure out the conference championships. Not even, I think the conference championships are important, but if you have a 24 team playoff, that means now you have 23 games that you got to play, which now means you don't have that extra week, right? The week that they're playing conference championship games, that needs to be the first round of the playoffs. And this ridiculousness of 2 weeks between the playoff games has to go away as well. Like, you should be able to reasonably line up and have a playoff game each and every week. And I think the reason they don't do that is because of the media frenzy around the college football playoffs. So for every week that they delay, there's an analysis and sports talk and all this coverage and all these things that are driving media for the organization, right? ESPN. Versus if we wrap this thing up, I mean, they should be able to wrap a 12-team playoff up in 5 weeks. Like 5 weeks from the end of conference championships.
So 12 or 24.
The 12. 12 should be like
12.
5 weeks. Like, you got what? 11 games that you got to play. You can play those 11 games over 5 weeks. Game over. Like, done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's including a bye before the national championship. But somehow they drag that thing out from like, for like 8 weeks. And I don't know how they do it, but they do it.
Yeah, I think they want to make sure that they mitigate for injuries and all that stuff, but that's part of the game.
No.
It's part of the game. And
no, it's not about injuries, Amani. I can tell you that, standing on business, it's not about injuries. It is about the media machine that is the college football playoff. And for every week that we can delay this thing, we get even more sponsorship on the shows where we are talking about the college football playoff.
I've been on a couple of those shows, and they're not what makes the lights goes on in ESPN and all these conferences, all these big time NBC and all this stuff.
So do you
what
think
makes the light goes on is live sports?
So let me ask you
That's
this:
what people tune into. They don't want to hear, some people talking about the games. They want to see the games.
So do you think their ratings are up or down right now on some of these shows?
Down.
Some of these talking head shows, and why is that?
Down.
Because football season's over.
Football season's over, right? And but the games aren't being played.
But football, no, I'm talking about the talking heads shows on ESPN.
Yeah.
Like I personally, again, I don't know that people are watching these shows to the level that they were, because a huge percentage of the people that will sit down and watch a show on ESPN, they want to hear them talk about Alabama football, Ohio State football, NFL football. And now that football season's over, their ratings are way down on those shows. To round out this discussion about the Big Ten and this playoff expansion, I think another motivation around expanding for the Big Ten really goes back to what I said about 2030, right? Their media rights deal is expiring. Yeah. And I think they want their pitch to be to their next media partner, hey, we got 8 brands a year that are in this college football playoff. And if you could go to the bargaining table, in 2030, when your media rights deal is up, and I think they were with Fox, right? If you can go to them and say, hey, our media rights deal is up in 2030.
On the Big Ten Network and Fox.
Yeah. How do we, but we got 8 teams a year that are in this college football playoff, these big brands. I think that helps them from a bargaining standpoint, because
I think it does. I think you're 100% right. It does. But I don't think that if you're a broadcaster and you're like, yeah, but what if those 8 teams are garbage? Like, I don't care about, you care about the brands a little bit, but you want to make compelling TV, right? And you could, it was more obvious this year when Indiana went. Everybody wanted Miami to win because they were used to seeing Miami, and Miami has the history and all this stuff. Indiana doesn't. And so I don't care about what happened in the past. I just want the best team to win. To me, that's a meritocracy. That's the best teams winning. And so at some important time, if you're like the college football playoff, like the BCS era, which was just stuffed full of SEC teams because the SEC has a big relationship with ESPN, that lost a lot of luster for me too. So you got to be careful of how much you want to tip your finger on the scale, because people aren't stupid. And if you're not giving them what they expect, which is the best playing the best, it's going to be more detrimental to the college football playoffs to have Nepo babies on the field than the actual people that deserve it. So it's a slippery slope, and I would not want to watch, because there's not 8 great SEC teams this year, and there's not 8 great Big Ten teams this year that really have an opportunity to impress people.
No chance. And you say it's a slippery slope, but it's also a financially lucrative slope for them to expand to 24 teams, because right now, if the Big Ten gets 3 teams in the college football playoff, then that's going to be about a $7 to $8 million per team in the conference, per team distribution from the CFP, right? That comes from that appearance, right? If they get 7 teams, That goes to 12 to 14 million dollars per team. That's the real motivation. It's like, how do we monopolize a lot of this money that's being passed around because of this big franchise, the college football playoff, and how do we get more of it? And so many
Have the best
people,
teams.
yeah, have the best teams. But to your point, I think a lot of people have speculated that the SEC and the Big Ten anyway just want to take their ball, create a super league, and go home, right? And forget about everybody else, the ACC, Big 12, all those other programs. We'll take the best teams from the ACC and the Big 12, and we'll create 2 super leagues. We got 25 teams in each conference, and we'll just play an NFL style, football season, and then a 2014 playoff or whatever at the end, right?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like but the problem is there's not that many good teams.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 50 teams, like, so say 25 in the Big Ten, 25 in the SEC. There's not 25 teams that you want to watch on each 50 teams on each. There's not 50 good college teams in college football.
Yeah, but the Big Ten right now is 18 teams. The SEC is 16 teams, and
Yeah, and
they're
some
not
of
far.
them are trash
They're not
in
far.
both conferences.
They're not far from 20. And I think the next conference realignment in 2030, there will likely be some defections from both the Big 12 and the ACC to the Big 10 and the SEC. The last thing I'll
Go ahead. Do you think there's some teams that are going to get kicked out of the Big Ten?
I don't think so, but that would be interesting. That would be interesting, but I don't think so. And to your point, I think the Big Ten was very strategic about who they let in because they went after big media markets and or big brands. Obviously, University of Oregon is not a big media market, but the brand, has grown over the years to be a big football and just overall sports brand, right? But all the other cities where the Big Ten is, I think, very strategically placed. So I can't see them getting rid of a whole media market because they've done a good job with it. SEC conferences, I mean, those, I think they were a little more strategic as well, but it's all history based, right? And, when they expanded to Texas and Oklahoma, it was like, yo, these schools got history and they got money, right? The last thing I want to make about this expansion of the 2014 playoff, last point, and then we'll transition to our last topic and get out of here.
Yeah.
The last point is that the playoff expansion probably kills the rest of the bowls, right?
Yeah.
I think the bowl games are kind of dying right now anyway. In fact, we just saw one bowl game just actually folded. The LA Bowl just said, yo, we've done this for 5 seasons. Curtains, we're not doing it anymore. It's not profitable, right? So I think that would be, if the playoff expanded to 24 teams, I think that would be the official death nail to the rest of the bowl games.
I never really understood the bowl concept.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when they started having the BCS bowls,
Yeah.
So like there used to be, it was just a bowl game and you're honored to be in it. And every bowl didn't mean the same, but it kind of did because there was no real delineation.
Yeah.
But now that there's the New Year's Day bowls, there's this bowls, there's the, so now it's like, oh, I'm at the Weed Eater Bowl. And it's just kind of like,
The Weed Eater Bowl.
you're like, yo, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's
I
tough.
don't know.
I don't see it happening, but let's transition to our last story. And I know this one is near and dear to you, Amani, because we're going to talk about the SEC again, right?
Yeah.
The SEC just distributed a record $1 billion
With a B.
with a B, $1 billion to its member schools. That was an average of $74 million per school, not including, Oklahoma and Texas, because again, they just got there, so they didn't get the full allocation. But $74 million per school. And, when I think about a topic that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Rutgers and losing $78 million, I mean, imagine if you could get a check for $74 million from your conference because the conference was so successful and profitable, right? So initial thoughts as a SEC hater, Amani, what are your thoughts about the SEC breaking that threshold, $1 billion?
All right. I think it's good for college athletics, men and women.
Yeah.
I think it just shows that there is a real importance of it. It's funny because I talked to my wife who's from Denmark. She has no idea why people care so much about their colleges in the United States. Colleges to them are like high schools, you
Yeah.
know, no
Yeah.
sports, no nothing. You go to school to learn and then you
Right.
move on.
Of
It's a
course.
very, utilitarian thing. Like, it's not, there's nothing, no frills about it, right?
Right.
So when I wear my Michigan stuff, she's like, why I don't get the whole college thing. Um, so anyway, point is that, um, I like the college system. I like the fact that people can have a different type of relationship with their school than just the fact that they took some tests there. And I think it makes it a lot of fun. Like I remember watching the other day, when North Carolina beat Duke in basketball, and all the players were walking. It showed clips of them walking, in like some student union or whatever, walking by all the students, and the whole student body was just out there cheering them on. That was what college. That reminded me of what college is, and I think that's beautiful. I think it's one of the most pure. Um, when people are just excited for you because you went to their school and you've done something well for their school and they appreciate the effort. I love that. Um, and so I like the fact that that's going to keep on going on. And I think that it's a very strong, but there's a lot of teams that are going to have to make a decision. Schools are going to have to make a decision whether they're going to be, because you can't just be tepid. Oh, we have a football team. They're trying to wipe out all those schools that want to dip their toe. Unless you're doing a cannonball in and trying to really win this thing, there's not going to be room for you in the NCAA pretty soon anymore.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I love that you used the North Carolina Duke analogy because my daughter is a freshman at Chapel Hill,
Oh, cool.
and like literally, you just made such a great point because my daughter could care less about Chapel Hill athletics, like she doesn't really care, but
Yeah,
that was a big deal for her. She's like, "Yo, we beat Duke," and she was just fired up, right? And I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
I'm like, who is this calling me? Like, why do you care? Because you don't care,
yeah,
but. Anyway,
yeah.
I think it is school, and I think it does speak to the fact that we talk a lot about the SEC. We do believe that the SEC is down right now, right? They haven't even made the conference or the college football national championship game in the last 3 seasons, right? So like the Georgia Alabama dominance is kind of over. That has shifted to the Big Ten, and I think a lot of people have said maybe the end of the SEC reign and dominance in college football is coming to an end. Well, the numbers would not suggest so,
Yeah.
right? The numbers would say that the SEC is probably in better shape than it's ever been. Again,
Hmm.
$1 billion that the SEC
Yeah.
distributed to its member schools. Now, that number is up from last year. They distributed $840 million, right? And you know what the Big Ten distributed last year, fiscal year 23-24, Amani?
Hmm.
Any
Hmm.
idea? $928 million. Now, the Big Ten has not disclosed their number yet. I don't think they report for several more weeks, maybe even months.
Hmm.
But this number, seeing the SEC and how productive they were, that might suggest to me that the Big Ten is also going to be over $1 billion as well.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be, but you got to understand, most of the cities in the Big Ten, $1 billion in a big, like, what was you say, $70 million, $78 million, $74 million is can go a lot further in Tuscaloosa, Alabama than it can go in New Jersey, or go in Chicago, or go in LA, or go in Washington State. So I think that does so there's that shows you how passionate people are in the SEC. And I just wonder, like, if the Big Ten keeps winning like this, will the Big Ten? It already is in the Midwest. Like, don't get me wrong. In the
Yeah.
Midwest, the Big Ten is everything, right?
Yeah.
But how can the challenge for the Big Ten to me is how can they make New York City, right?
Yeah.
I think Penn State is pretty. Penn State is pretty. Like, Pennsylvania. I think they're pretty
Oh
well
yeah.
locked in.
Oh no, they're solid.
Yeah, but then you got to go like Chicago. I mean, Illinois is pretty good. Northwestern.
The Bears.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a pro town. Like, and then you got Washington. I don't know how locked in the whole West Coast is. So it's kind of like they have to figure out. There's room there. Like I said a couple weeks ago, there's meat on the bone for them to kind of expand.
Yeah.
But SC has to be better. Washington has to be better. UCLA has to be better.
Yeah.
Rutgers has to be better. Rutgers can make a huge impact if they were better. There's so many people around here that have no tie or connection to any college football, that if like they don't even consider, like most of the kids around here wouldn't even want to play at Rutgers.
Yeah.
Because I coach the school, and that's a big loss. If they can close the borders on New Jersey and get a lot of the good players to stay in and go to Rutgers, I think they'd have some pretty competitive teams.
They should build a wall, man. I mean, you said. I'm just saying, man. If they could keep those kids in Jersey, bro, they would. I mean, you're exactly right. There's a lot of talent in Jersey. I don't think football. When I think Jersey, there's a lot of talent in Jersey.
A lot of talent. There's 9 million people in this small state.
Yeah,
it's the most densely populated state in the country.
That's incredible. So Amani, I know we are over our time limit today, man, but this is a lot of fun, a lot of great concepts. One of the things that I want to do, I want to start a new segment called Old Business, because I think there's some of the stories that we've talked about in the first 4 episodes are starting to continue to percolate, right? There's new developments. So at the end, maybe we'll do a segment called Old Business, and we'll talk about some of the stories that we have previously talked about and give some updates, because I think that would be a good deal for our listeners. But again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Standing on Business. We will be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and then make sure you hit the follow button on Apple and Spotify. Rate and review the podcast. Help other people find us. And Amani, I want to encourage you, man, keep standing on business, bro.
I'm standing on bed, but I'm very coachable. So anybody wants to comment, tell me something. Tell me how I can get better. Tell me how the show can get better. Because the only thing we want to do is give a different perspective on sports and business and how they merge together, and then just give perspective on 2 old guys that used to play. And,
One old guy. I'm old-ish.
You're old, bro.
I am. My kids are older than your kids, so yeah.
Bro, could you go outside and sprint and run a 100-meter dash right now?
I run a hill by my house every day. I run hills.
You run a hill every day?
I run a hill, bro. I'm still doing a Walter Payton workout.
You got to video that and put it in there so we can clip it in the show. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. You ain't running nothing.
Oh, man. All right. Deuces.
All right, man.
Keep standing on business.